President Trump defending himself after a Democratic congresswoman accused him of being insensitive when he called the widow of a slain soldier. The congresswoman claims Mr. Trump said to this grieving widow, quote, he knew what he was signing up for, but when it happens, it hurts anyway. The president categorically denied he said that just about an hour ago.
Didn't say what that congresswoman said. Didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said, and I'd like her to make the statement again, because I did not say what she said. I had a very nice conversation with the woman, with the wife, who sounded like a lovely woman. Did not say what the congresswoman said, and most people aren't too surprised to hear that.
All right, so let's talk about this. I'm joined by John Fredericks, a conservative radio talk show host and a supporter of the president, and Bill Press, the host of the Bill Press Show. So, John, I'll start with you. The president denied that he said that, but he didn't say the widow's name, and that will cause some people to pause.
Well, it's despicable what this Democratic congresswoman has done in politicizing the death of one of our young soldiers. We had 4 soldiers that die. They come back. The president makes phone calls trying to console families. We've got to take things out of text and somehow turn this into another anti-Trump segment on cable news. The whole thing is really sick. It's sick. And look, if the president said he didn't say that, I take him at his word. He didn't say it. And I would say the other thing is a lot of things that this president says are taken out of text. He has a different style that people just don't like, his plain speaking. They bristle at it. If he says he had a nice conversation, he did. You know, the bigger question is, a lot of us didn't even have any idea, Carol, why we still have military operations in Niger. And that's a whole separate issue, because my theory of why none of this was publicized when it happened is that I think there's people in the government and in the administration, the neocons. We've got troops now all over the globe fighting wars that they have no particular authorization to fight, no declaration of war. We've got neocons in that White House. We're fighting perpetual wars, and we get 4 of our service members coming home in body bags. And it's in the moniker on the bottom of the screen a week ago on CNN, and that was it. Like, we're not even talking about why we're there.
Well, we have been on this show. We have been talking about that on this show. But the president did feel the need to defend himself, Bill, against these allegations. This congresswoman said he said something insensitive to a grieving widow, Maisha Johnson. Yeah. And I have to add, in fairness, that Sergeant Johnson's mother heard this same conversation, and she said that Congresswoman Wilson's account was accurate. So, Bill Press, your thoughts?
First of all, I agree that this is despicable. I believe to make any political football out of military families, particularly those whose loved ones have paid the ultimate sacrifice. But I want to point out it was Donald Trump that started this, not Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. It was Donald Trump in the Rose Garden, who, first of all, passed 12 days after these 4 servicemen were killed in Niger without saying anything. He was tweeting about the NFL. He was tweeting about Bob Corker. He was tweeting about all kinds of other stuff. Not a word about the death of these 4 servicemen. When he was asked about on Monday by CNN's Jim Acosta, then he said, oh, yeah, I've written them letters. They're going to be mailed tonight. I'm going to call the families. And then he made it political. He should have stopped right there. Instead, he has to attack Barack Obama and say no other president has done this. Barack Obama never did it. Ask John Kelly. It was a president who made this political. I really think military families ought to be held bound. And I would tell Donald Trump something else. I mean, I believe that the comment was certainly as insensitive and cruel and cold-hearted as hell. I don't believe he meant it that way. I really don't. Then what he should really do is saying, you know, I'm sorry if the words that I spoke were taken in the wrong way. I certainly didn't mean that. I apologize to this widow. Instead, he's got to attack the congresswoman. Watch. He'll be attacking the widow before the day is out. And Carol, final point, he can't win this argument. All of us have seen that photograph of that widow, 24 years old, with a 6-year-old daughter alongside of her, grieving over that casket. Donald Trump can't win this, just like he couldn't win the battle against the Gold Star family.
I do think, John, I think Bill makes a good point. I mean, why? I know he's a counterpuncher, and I know he fights back, and I know he has to win arguments, and I know he never loses, and all that stuff. But this is a grieving widow, so why not just say, you know what, Mrs. Johnson, I'm sorry my words were misconstrued. I feel for you. I really do, from the bottom of my heart. Please tell me what I can do. Why didn't he say that?
Well, why is the Democratic Congresswoman, Frederica Wilson, right in the middle of this, going on TV, blasting the president
I'll tell you.
and politicizing it herself? I mean, that's what started it. This conversation was between, now wait a minute, Bill, this conversation was between the President of the United States and a grieving family and a grieving widow, right? And now we've got Democratic Congresswoman Wilson has to go on cable news and blast the president and make the whole thing about another anti-Trump cable TV news soundbite when everybody knows this president has been consistently great for the military families. He believes in what they do. He stands up for them. He's giving them the resources they need. He's doing everything that they've asked him to do, and he's got generals running around the West Wing. So I don't know. If she hadn't started this, we wouldn't have been having this dialogue. It would be between the president and the family.
Okay, last word, Bill, then I got to go.
All right, quickly. She didn't start it. The president did. I'll tell you why she is speaking out. She's a very close member of the family. She was the principal of the elementary school where Sergeant LaDavid Johnson's father went. She's been very close to that family. She was asked by the family to go with them when the caskets came home to Miami. And she was in the car, and she heard the conversation. She didn't start it. She repeated it. And, John, Donald Trump is stepping in it all the time. And that's not our fault. It's not the Congresswoman's fault. It's his fault. He ought to just shut up sometimes, and he never will.
All right. I have to leave it there. But, John, I suspect I know what you might say to that. John Fredericks, Bill Press, thank you so much.
Thanks,
I'll be right back.
Always good to see you, Bill and Carol.